Hi, welcome to week 3. Today is Monday. We just had our sex ed discussion and debriefing. Today I want to talk a little bit more about consent, and I have a couple of questions for the Netherlands sex education system. We discussed today how sex was really intertwined with love and relationships in this pamphlet and in what the the Dutch students learn. But that's not fair to those that want to, just, as Dr. Ambrose would say, fuck like it's shaking hands. And a person is going to learn who they are in their sexuality as they grow up. They're going to learn if they are a fucker or a will only have sex in relationship type person. That is a journey in almost a trial and error process you have to go through. So the question is, which do we teach first? And I don't know if it's because I'm traditional or not, but I think it should be taught in the relationship setting. I think first of all, that's how you get trust and respect as the base layer, which I will talk about more with my consent topic. But I do think it's harder to have respect for someone who you don't know. That's just me. I think respect is earned. Talk about consent. We discussed it more in class. I would like to clarify that I don't oppose saying yes or saying no to things. I think that's very important, and I think the notion of consent is very important. But I think the way that it has formed as a word, specifically as a word, isn't great. I think the path it's on is dangerous almost, because we can never go back. So what I mean by that is consent used to be no means no. And then it was no, consent is yes. And now it is, I'm going to read the University of Michigan consent because that is what I'm familiar with. Clear and unambiguous agreement expressed outwardly through mutual and understandable words or action to engage in a particular activity. There's more. It's really strict, but it's also vague. So, clear and unambiguous. Who the hell knows what was clear and unambiguous? The same person that knows that it was probably wrong to do it in the first place. Okay? So I said in class that this strict yes definition was hurting people, because if they hadn't said yes or no, then the case was thrown away. And I believe Rachel retorted with, no, it's the patriarchy. It's both. I mean, it's a rape culture. It's whoever is perpetuating rape culture, and that is both the assailant and the judges and the lawmakers. But in general, I think that the Netherlands are okay with what they're doing on consent, because from what I got from that pamphlet, they are establishing communication and respect at a base layer. So it's that sex must be formed on top of that respect and consent. Respect and trust and communication. So building off of that, you're going to listen to each other anyway. The ideal world, is that you see that the person is uncomfortable and you don't push them. The ideal world, right? I think that is my full thought. The one question I really have for Netherlands sexuality program is if they show disturbing images of STIs in their symptoms, because that was the main thing that we learned in school. I had a very comprehensive education, I believe, in terms of sex, for what is comprehensive in schools, not in a feminist mind. But the main thing was still terrorizing through images of warts. So that's my question. See you tomorrow. Hi, today we had our English 355 discussion. In response to my question about the role of Cora and Martha's at large, we discussed sisterhood and how depriving, or I think what I was getting at when I asked the question was how depriving women of sisterhood takes away their power. And I want to discuss that a little more, as well as the questions from Household that Carter and Dash presented. So part of the separation of responsibilities in women is of course to treat the handmaids as a vessel and as an object for birth, as a womb or as an egg, as Atwood later describes. So that is there. We have objectification as a theme. So now I'm gonna go into the question. Carter quotes, "There is more than one kind of freedom," said Aunt Lydia, "freedom to and freedom from." Page 24. Who has freedom to in Offred's world? Who has freedom from? Why are these important distinctions to make? And what is to say about the role of women in Offred's past and present fate? So I'm not going to touch on all the questions and answers to that specifically, but I remember that when I read the book, that line did stand out to me significantly, and I remember taking a step back and saying, like, whoa, which doesn't happen that much in books until, afterwards. So I think that is a very important distinction to make, and I feel as if Gilead likes to think, whoever thinks that this society is good for women, they think that they are giving women freedom from their body, as in freedom from worrying about your looks, freedom from worrying about fitting in, wearing high heels, the makeup, the things that women often worry about. However, they are of course not giving them the freedom to do what they want with their own bodies. And the one instance where this doesn't hold true for the freedom from is with handmaids. They don't have freedom from their body. Their body is their only thing keeping them alive at all. I don't want to say keeping them free, because it's keeping them, their fertility is actually what's keeping them captive. It's what's giving, their fertility is what's keeping them captive. So I just wanted to try to relate that objectification. I'm going to try to, and hopefully I didn't lose my train of thought yet. So essentially, we have the society that is oppressing via objectification and oppressing via withholding freedom. And they're connected in that not only are you objectified, at least in our society, I'm objectified, but I can still do what I want with my body, and I am still not only my body. It's not my only definition. Whereas in this society, handmaids have neither. So I also wanted to quickly mention the next quote for Household on page 83. "They only show us victories, never defeats. Who wants bad news?" And I just wanted to mention that because it relates to the essay I wrote for prompt 1 on feminism. Who wants bad news, right? I mean, I love the puppy news because that's much better than the murders and the fights and the refugees, because it's the only way feminism and any kind of anti-oppression movement stay strong. If it wasn't for videos of young black men being shot, Black Lives Matter would not be a groundbreaking movement. So again, that relates to my paper because it keeps us angry and it keeps us going and it keeps us curious about what other injustices there are. So that is my vlog for today. Hi, today is Thursday. Today we heard from Yvette Lors and we went to the PIC and had a tour. The one I'm going to talk about in this vlog is feminist sex versus feminist porn versus ethical porn. Namely because when we mentioned feminist porn, she seemed a little apprehensive towards it and preferred calling it ethical porn, which I think is interesting. I would like to to know what she thinks the difference is between feminist and ethical porn. How I captured it was sort of that feminist porn was on the production side. Are the performers getting paid the right and equal amounts? Is it a safe environment? Is anyone being exploited in the process? Whereas ethical porn is the consumption. So, are you paying for it? Are you exploiting anyone else to get it? And then my other compare and contrast would be between feminist sex versus feminist porn, because I think you can have one without the other. It's kind of difficult to verbalize, but I'm going to attempt anyway. So feminist sex is when you are focusing on equal pleasure for both individual or all individuals, and if a woman is involved, actually doing positions that will actually stimulate her and not just that are for good for male consumption, that include positions where she could actually get clitoral stimulation. And feminist porn is, again, the production of it. I would say feminist porn versus feminist sex, I would say that you can have lesbian, so this is on the feminist sex, you can have lesbian sex that is feminist if everyone, again, is orgasming and there's verbal I would say verbal consent is in the porn, actually, not the sex. And on the porn side, I would say feminist porn would be having two actual lesbians or bi or pan, women that in their outside lives enjoy being with other women, having sex. That is feminist porn. So I think, again, it's the difference between the acts going on and the production, and then again, ethical porn is the consumption. So that's how I've sort of broken it up in my mind. I've been reflecting on that all day. So I hope that made sense. See you tomorrow. Hi, so this week I talked about sex ed, prostitution, and Handmaid's Tale. I want to say, first of all, I really loved the Color Muller Museum. I thought it was phenomenal, and I'm so glad we had to go because it was my favorite day of the trip so far, and I wouldn't have gotten up on a Saturday to do it on my own. So thanks for that. I really, really loved the art and the Viking. So first of all, I didn't get to vlog this week about Nadia Boris's guest lecture, and I do wonder, one thought that stayed, I have two thoughts. One of the two thoughts was that the men came alone at first. The Moroccan men came alone, and it wasn't really an issue because they were just like hippies. But I wonder if it's because they were men. I wonder if it had been women coming alone. So not families, just the women coming alone. If that would have been an issue. Such the thoughts been going in my head. The other one was she posed to the soccer thing. Would you root for Morocco's team or Turkey's team or Amsterdam's team? And that's a very similar question to what Jews in America get asked a lot. Are you an American Jew or a Jewish American? And I made that connection because Miss Boris was talking about how they were never really integrated. I don't know. The way she spoke made me think of how Jews were identified in the Middle Ages and right around the time of the Crusades, and then especially after the Crusades, is that we weren't part of, we weren't French citizens. We were Jewish citizens living in France, and you didn't get both citizenships, which, leading to that got worse, and that's, how we got to the final solution of we need to get rid of them so we have a pure German citizenship, so different country, but same idea. And just with all the Islamophobia, there are so many parallels to the Holocaust that just freak me out, especially, this is way back when Trump first started saying that Muslims should wear ID badges. I think he mentioned that twice. No, that's terrible. Anyway, my main point was I don't know if I'm a Jewish American or an American Jew. And if we were actually into soccer, I'd probably root for Israel more than I root for America. Luckily, we don't really play them in the Olympics that much, so it's like not an issue. We don't play the same sports. But that's so unfair that they have to choose just because their skin color is different and their extremists are in the news more. Our extremists are in the news plenty in the Middle East, and it's getting more attention now, but I'm not being made to choose my identities, and I think it's horrible that they are. Anyway, so that's like sort of an addition, but reflecting back on the rest of the week, I decided that I definitely I'm still uneasy with prostitution. I still don't find it to be the most liberating experience. I don't think in Amsterdam, at least, that it's oppressive per se, but I think I figured out why. So I talked earlier this week about how there is this base level of trust and respect. And I guess I don't see that in prostitution. Even if you're just fucking, I think that paying for it reduces the respect. Because you're not doing it out of mutual interest. You're doing it, it's a sale. And I am still having trouble seeing how that's not like totally objectifying. I'm working on it because I'm trusting these women and what they tell me. I don't want to be that kind of person that woman tells me something and I'm in academia, so I say, no, you're wrong, you are being oppressed. I want to listen, and I am listening, and I think that's how I got to this conclusion in the first place. So hopefully I will continue to open my mind a little more. It's just taking some time. This week was a great week, and I can't wait for next week.